And it was the most miserable performance I've ever watched. It was the worst thing I have ever seen with my own two eyes. The most embarrassing thing I have ever seen with my own two eyes. I say embarrassing because of this. I am a proud University of Georgia graduate. I am a proud dog that breathes red and black, and I have from the time I came out of the womb. Since out of the womb, I have had on a Georgia shirt, a Georgia red and black of some sort. And what happened on Thursday night with this Georgia basketball team was embarrassing. It was abysmal. It was pathetic. It was horrendous to watch. I could not fathom what I was witnessing with my own two eyes. It hurt my soul because I felt like some of those players on the floor just didn't even care about where they were. They didn't even care that they were playing for an NCAA tournament. They didn't care that they were playing for Georgia's first tournament win since 2002. They didn't care whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Daily Ham. This is episode 18 here on the Hammy Show. I'm your host, Hammy Culpepper, and of course, we are presented by First American Bank and Trust. What a weekend it was to open up and kick off some March Madness. It was absolutely unbelievable. What we saw this past weekend is just the definition of March. In a year last year when you have the Final Four that is just all one seeds, you're thinking, oh, this year is going to be something special because of all of the just kind of chalk that we had last year. You think this year is going to live up to the hype, and boy, did it. It was absolutely unreal. So many March moments, so many things that had just magical written all over them. And it's just the definition of March. It leaves you speechless every single year. Of course, we were in Greenville, South Carolina for the round of 64 and round of 32, and boy, oh boy, did we have a time there. It was awesome. We were powered by Hugh Subaru as the Hammy Show hit the road for Greenville, South Carolina. I'm repping the shirt. We had Duke, Siena, Ohio State, TCU, UNC, VCU, Illinois, and Penn all teeing it up, all tipping it off on Thursday, and then the winners of those advanced to Saturday's slate in the round of 32. So I want to talk about those games. I want to talk about some other games from the weekend. We just want to wrap up, put a bow on this opening weekend of March Madness that was oh so special, my friends. So to kick things off, we go to Ohio State TCU. We're walking in the game, and shout out to my hosts this past weekend, Harry Jones, Ben Prather, and Barrett Johnston. They're in Greenville, South Carolina. Sam Means, also resident of the household, but he was not there this past weekend, but we had a great time. But we're walking into the game, Ohio State TCU, just chatting it up about how good March is. But what we said going into this Ohio State TCU game was, guys, this has the potential to be the game of the weekend, the game of the round of 64, maybe the entire tournament. And it was an awesome game. TCU gets out to an early lead. At halftime, I think they were up 11 or 12 points. Ohio State comes all the way back, roaring back. TCU takes the lead on a Xavier Edmonds game-winning shot with 4.2 seconds left. Bruce Thornton on Ohio State's team drives it all the way down, gets to just half court and throws up a heave. It obviously misses. TCU walks away with the 66-64 win. But how does Ohio State not draw something up to get closer to the basket? I get you probably have to take a three there, but in 4.2 seconds, you should be able to stretch the length of the floor and at least get it to the three-point line so you don't have to heave up one of those prayer shots. Of course, it does not fall. Ohio State falls. TCU advances to the round of 32 to take on the eventual other round of 64 champ from this past weekend in the East Division, and that was Duke over Siena. Duke over Siena, what a game that was. We're walking into that one on the contrary to what we had for the Ohio State TCU game, and we're like, guys, this is going to be a blowout. It's a 1 versus 16 seed. Duke's the number 1 overall seed. They're the best team in the country. They're playing like it. They've got the best player in the country in Cam Boozer. John Shire is one of the best coaches in the country. This is not even going to be close, and boy, oh boy, were we wrong. We had another absolute instant classic. Siena nearly upsets the Blue Devils in Greenville, South Carolina, but the Blue Devils walk away with a 71-65 win to take on TCU in the round of 32. A few highlights from that game. The starters for Siena played all 40 minutes. The fifth starter played 39 minutes and 50 seconds. So one dude off of the bench came in for a mere 10 seconds. Other than that, those guys were in the game nonstop. Luke Doty finishes with 21 points to lead all Siena scores. He was 7 of 20 from the three-point line. All of his points came from beyond the arc. He, of course, had that late injury where he twisted his ankle. He was limping off of the court after the game, but he was pretty much limping around the court for the entirety of the game following that injury. And who cares? They kept him in. He stayed in. It was an awesome, awesome, awesome game. And I really thought Siena was going to pull it out. But, of course, Cam Boozer eventually kind of just takes over, and not in the sense that you would expect, but takes over from the free throw line, and that's where they won that game. He went 13 for 14 from the stripe. And it was just game over from there. Duke extended their lead far enough to where Siena just didn't have a prayer as the waning seconds ticked off the clock. Cade Black 874 says, Hammy, do you think this Duke team is one of the best Duke teams ever? Going into this tournament, I would say yes. I mean, you go back to the Zion, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish teams. You go back to 99 Duke. You go back to some of those vintage Duke teams led by Coach K. And, of course, those come to mind. But this one, with the Boozer twins, with Foster, if he was healthy, I can never say his name, but with him at center, if he's fully healthy, it is definitely up there as one of the most talented Duke teams. Of course, that Foster injury is very evident with how this Duke team is playing. They struggle against Siena. They struggle against TCU to kick things off and at the beginning of the second half. But then they take over. Cam Boozer takes over. Twin brother, little Boozer takes over. They're just really good. Do I think they can win a national title? I really don't. I don't think with those injuries, those two injuries in their starting five, that this Duke team is geared up to win 6 straight and hoist the trophy at the end of March Madness, cut down the nets, if you will. I just didn't see enough promise from Boozer, to be honest. If he's going to take over and he's going to be the leader of this team, then he's got to do so. And he just didn't. Like I said, he did against Siena, but it was from the free throw line. It was just him forcing it down into the lane and getting fouled and getting to the stripe, which, yes, you can win games against 16 seeds like that, but once you get into these games against the St. John's in the Sweet 16, against an eventual Michigan State or UConn, if you are to win in the Sweet 16 and take on one of those teams in the Elite Eight, I just don't see how this Duke team can string together some wins the way they played in the opening weekend of March Madness. We go to the later slate of Thursday. We have UNC VCU kicking things off at about 6 p.m., 82-78, VCU comes storming all the way back from down 19 at one point in this game. They had a 0.09% chance of winning this game, but Terrence Hill Jr., my friends, off of the bench has 34 points and brings the Rams fighting all the way back. It was an absolutely electric game. When we're sitting there, we had all bet on VCU. We all had VCU in our brackets, all 4 of us sitting together. And VCU gets the dub to claim that victory. It was absolutely unbelievable, and we could not fathom it. In the second half, in that second half of the second half, we really thought VCU had no prayer. I think everybody in America thought they had no prayer. Even UNC without Caleb Wilson just looked like they were dominating up and down the floor. But VCU, like I said, Terrence Hill Jr. takes over the game, hits some big-time threes coming down the stretch, and boy, oh boy, the VCU band, the Peppas, they were absolutely electric. We loved the Peppas. Their band director, I got to get his name right, Ryan Kaposki. He is the director of this band. He changes shirts about every single 4 minutes of the game. He wore a Michael Jordan jersey, UNC jersey, in the next game when they took on Illinois in the round of 32 to mock the UNC Tar Heels. It was hilarious, but during this first game, he was awesome. Got the crowd hyped up, got the VCU band, the Peppas all into it. And as we're walking out of the stadium, as the Rams are victorious, we run into the Peppas, and they were awesome. They're playing their battle hymn in the streets. It was absolutely stunning to watch. The Peppas shouting them out. Of course, they were a great time and a great watch as VCU upsets UNC in a 6-11 game. To close things out, we had Illinois versus UPenn. We missed this game, and it was the only game out of the Greenville, South Carolina round of 64. game that stunk. It was just a blowout. Illinois runs away with it, 105-70. They set their program record for the most points scored in a tournament game. Penn just didn't have a prayer. This Illinois team is really, really good. We'll get to their round of 32 performance. But rather than watching the Illinois-Penn game, we, of course, had to go watch our Georgia Bulldogs. So we went to a local bar, the Carolina Ale House in Greenville, South Carolina, to watch the Bulldogs. And it was the most miserable performance I've ever watched. It was the worst thing I have ever seen with my own two eyes. The most embarrassing thing I have ever seen with my own two eyes. I say embarrassing because of this. I am a proud University of Georgia graduate. I am a proud dog that bleeds red and black, and I have from the time I came out of the womb. Since out of the womb, I have had on a Georgia shirt, a Georgia red and black of some sort. And what happened on Thursday night with this Georgia basketball team was embarrassing. It was abysmal. It was pathetic. It was horrendous to watch. I could not fathom what I was witnessing with my own two eyes. It hurt my soul because I felt like some of those players on the floor just didn't even care about where they were. They didn't even care that they were playing for an NCAA tournament. They didn't care that they were playing for Georgia's first tournament win since 2002. They didn't care whatsoever. Now, last year, it was excusable. You play Gonzaga in the first round in an 8-9 game. It's one of the most talented 8 seeds in that Gonzaga team of all time. Ken Pom had them ranked as the 9th best team in the entire country. And they were an 8 seed. So it was a bad draw for Georgia. It still was not excusable how bad Georgia performed in that game. But this year you come in against a St. Louis team that is severely undersized compared to this Georgia roster. Robbie Avila at the 5 position is like 6 inches shorter than Santo Surreal, Georgia's center. And he just owned it. He owned the game. Robbie Avila is like a Mr. March, encapsulated March all in one person. He is an awesome player, and he had a heck of a game. He was dishing it in the assists. He was playing like the mini Joker. It was awesome to watch. But in no shape or form should Santo Surreal be outperformed by a guy in Robbie Avila. It was pathetic to watch. I had to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs falling 102-77 to the St. Louis Billikens. Another game that we have to talk about from the round of 64, Kentucky Santa Clara. Otega Oweh wins it for the Wildcats and Mark Pope. What a freaking game with 2.4 seconds left. Alan Graves, Santa Clara's Alan Graves, hits what is thought to be the game winner. A three-pointer from the right wing, and Santa Clara goes nuts. 2.4 seconds left. Otega Oweh drives all the way down the floor just in front of the half-court line, drains a 3 off the backboard. It was unbelievable. The most amazing thing that I thought about when I saw this was he didn't heave it. You know, there's a difference between the prayer heave and finding your form and hitting it like a jump shot. That's what Otega Oweh did. It was just like he had practiced that shot countless times. He just pulled up like a regular 3 and drained it. It was insane stuff. But, of course, Santa Clara thought they had won it. They thought they had the game winner. Their head coach, Herb Sendek, was trying to call a timeout, and the refs didn't acknowledge it. He was trying to call a timeout because Santa Clara had a 3-point lead. If you just foul Kentucky almost immediately, then they have to hit 2 free throws as long as it's not on a 3-point shot. And Santa Clara walks away with a win. They have a victory over the 7-seed Kentucky Wildcats. But that doesn't happen. He doesn't get the timeout off, or the timeout, rather, is not acknowledged. Kentucky comes down, drains the 3. They dominate overtime, 89-84. Wildcats win. They are in the round of 32. The biggest upset of the weekend has to be High Point and over Wisconsin. 83-82 victory for High Point. Chase Johnston is another guy that is the definition of March. March is wrapped up all in that one human being. He had taken like 163s on the year. He was shooting like 42% from the three-point line. He had taken just 5 2-point shots all season long, but he hits his first 2-point shot, and it gives High Point the victory over the 5-seed Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin had one of the most remarkable seasons, a weird season. They lose to teams like Oregon and USC, some of those West Coast teams. But they also have some of the biggest wins of the entire season. They beat Michigan. They beat Illinois. They beat Purdue. Some of those top-tiered talented teams in the Big Ten, Wisconsin beat. I had Wisconsin picked. I thought they had too much promise, too much of the big-time moments ice in their veins type of team to lose to a High Point in a 12-5 game. But, of course, Wisconsin falls to High Point. High Point's advances to the round of 32 to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Those were just some awesome ones from the round of 64. Let's talk second round. We'll go to Greenville first. We had an outstanding game for the first half in TCU Duke. Duke then runs away with it. Cam Boozer is the star of the show, and he gets the victory for the Blue Devils as Duke moves on to the Sweet 16 under John Shire. Then you got Illinois and VCU. Illinois dominates that one as well. VCU just was no match for the bigs down low for this Illinois team. Terrence Hill Jr. hit some big-time threes and tried to keep VCU in it. The Peppas, the band, they tried to keep VCU in it, but this Illinois team was just far too talented. Outside of those two games, because at the end of the day, they weren't that great of games, you had Iowa upsetting Florida. How good was that, my friends? I had Florida picked in one of my brackets for a group that I'm in, but Iowa comes away with the victory as a 9 seed over Florida, 73-72. Alvaro, I got to get his name right, Folgaris, I think is how you say it, hits a three-pointer with 4.5 seconds left in the game. And that's it. It was the eventual game winner. Iowa's head coach, Ben McCollum, is just a winner. He has like a 116-65 record as a head coach at the college basketball level. He's insane. He's got his Iowa Hawkeyes as a 9 seed in the Sweet 16. They are still dancing. This has the candidacy for the game of the weekend, and that is Nebraska-Vandy. 74-72 finish. Nebraska gets their first tournament win in program history in the round of 64, and now they're all the way in the Sweet 16 after a victory over Vanderbilt, the 5th-seeded Commodores. Braden Frager hits a layup with 2.2 seconds left in the game to give Nebraska a 2-point lead. Tyler Tanner, the Vanderbilt Commodores point guard, drives all the way down, gets to half court, puts up a heave, and it rattles all the way in. I think if you freeze that frame, it looks like more than 50% of the ball are inside the rim, beneath the rim, and it rattles out. Insane finish from the Vanderbilt-Nebraska game. Iowa State, Kentucky, I just had to talk about this because even in the absence of Joshua Jefferson, Iowa State looks like one of the best teams in the country. I really like this Iowa State team. I think the Cyclones have a lot going for them, even, like I said, in the absence of Jefferson, a second-team All-American point guard. Iowa State just looks like they've got it in control. Kentucky bounced out to an early lead, but Iowa State fought all the way back. And by the time they go to the locker room, they have the lead, and then they just ran away with it in the second half. Texas-Gonzaga. Texas is now the lowest seed going to the Sweet 16 as an 11 seed. They upset 3-seeded Gonzaga. Awesome stuff from the Longhorns. It's going to be crazy if this Texas team can keep winning. I mean, they were in a play-in game, and now they're playing for the Sweet 16, a chance to go to the Elite Eight. Good stuff from the Longhorns. Bad stuff from Mark Few and those Gonzaga Bulldogs. St. John's, Kansas. We got to close out with that one in the round of 32. Insane. Absolutely insane. Dylan Darling hits a layup at the buzzer to give the Johnnies the victory and their first Sweet 16 berth since 1999. Head coach Rick Pitino, all white suited up, has his Johnnies fighting for a chance to go to the Elite Eight as a 5 seed. They, of course, take on Duke in the Sweet 16. Amazing. Amazing stuff. Dylan Darling did not have a point in the entirety of the game until that buzzer beater, and he lays it in to give the Johnnies the victory. I couldn't get over it. I'm a huge Rick Pitino fan. I love this Johnnies team. They are going to be an awesome, awesome team to watch as we go deeper into March. I think they've got a great shot to upset this Duke team. They're plus 6.5 according to FanDuel right now, but I think this St. John's team, the way Duke played, the way I saw them with my own 2 eyes, I think this St. John's team can get the victory over the Blue Devils, and boy, oh boy, Rick Pitino back to the Elite Eight would be electric stuff. Think about this, guys. The East region, your 4 head coaches. You've got John Shire with Duke. You've got Rick Pitino with St. John's. You've got Tom Izzo with Michigan State, and you've got Dan Hurley with UConn. Those are the 4 teams left out of the East region fighting for a Sweet 16 win. I mean, you have so many national titles between those 3 head coaches in Izzo, Pitino, and Hurley. Shire has yet to get a national title, but he's obviously the head coach of one of those historic programs in the Duke Blue Devils, who have 5 national titles. This game, this region is stacked up to be one of the all-time battles in a Sweet 16 regional we've ever seen. So great stuff from the East region as we move into Sweet 16 weekend this coming Friday. Overall, an unreal weekend. We're going to vote, not really vote, I'm just going to vote on the game of the weekend. Your candidates, you've got High Point upsetting Wisconsin. You've got Vandy losing to Nebraska. You've got Iowa upsetting Florida in the round of 32. You've got Kentucky, Santa Clara, the buzzer beater finish from Otega Oweh. But I think because I saw it with my own two eyes, the game of the weekend has to be VCU UNC. A 19-point comeback. UNC goes as far to tweet about it at the 8-minute mark. They said currently up 19 right now. VCU comes all the way back and gets the win. Awesome victory from the VCU Rams. Awesome stuff from the Peppas, the band. I loved it. But there's your game of the weekend. I think it was VCU UNC. J Bones back. I got it right. On Instagram says, what does Arkansas have to do to win it all? Keep feeding Darius Acuff the ball. It perfectly segues into my MVP of the weekend, and that's Darius Acuff. Darius Acuff is the best player in the country. What I saw from Cam Boozer did not solidify it. If BYU gets the win over Texas, AJ DeBonsa could very well be in this argument. He is one of the best players in the country as well. He's going to be a top 3 NBA draft pick. But I think Darius Acuff is your MVP from the weekend. Finishes with 36 points in the victory over High Point in the round of 32. High Point tried to hang around. They tried to be the Cinderella story of 2026, but Darius Acuff in the end just turned it on and was too much for that High Point team. Darius Acuff, through the tournament so far, 2 tournament games in the NCAA and 3 tournament games in the SEC tournament, he is averaging 30 points per game, 30.2 points per game from Darius Acuff. He is shooting 46% from the field. He is absolutely unbelievable. 7.2 assists per game. Darius Acuff is the most offensively talented player we have left in this tournament. I think even with all 64 teams, he was the most talented offensive player in this tournament. Darius Acuff is your MVP from the weekend. So I just think if Darius Acuff has the ball, to answer your question, J Bones back, I think if Darius Acuff has the ball, Arkansas can do whatever they want. If a team is to shut down Darius Acuff, then that's props to them. I just don't think there is an opportunity or a possibility to shut down this Acuff kid. I think he should be a top 3 NBA draft pick. I think he should be maybe number 1 overall. He is one of the most electrifying players we've seen in college basketball in a long time. A lot of people have said he's Coach Calipari's best point guard he's ever had. You got to think about the talent that Coach Cal has had. He's got a guy in John Wall who was unbelievable. Devin Booker, unbelievable. But Darius Acuff really might be Coach Cal's most talented point guard we have ever seen under the tutelage of Coach Calipari. I think he is. He's unbelievable. I saw him in the SEC tournament. I saw him in Athens, Georgia. Darius Acuff is one of the greatest college basketball players I've ever laid eyes on, and it's absolutely unbelievable what he is doing this tournament and throughout the SEC tournament as well. Just your Mr. March thus far. I think this is the last category we've got. Mr. March, there's 3 guys, and you can't give it to just one of them. It's Robbie Avila out of St. Louis. I mean, the things he was doing against Georgia, it was at will. He did whatever he wanted, and everybody knows it. I mean, his nicknames alone. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Milk Chamberlain. He's awesome stuff. I love Robbie Avila, and he's got to be a Mr. March candidate. Then you got Chase Johnston. Chase Johnston just banging threes all the way around, all throughout the season, and he doesn't have a 2-pointer, but he has one in the final minutes of the Wisconsin game as High Point upsets the Badgers, and it's his first 2-pointer of the season. How good is that? That's just the definition of March. And finally, it's Dylan Darling, the St. John's guard, doesn't have a single point in the entire game and hits the buzzer beater layup to beat Kansas, 4-seeded Kansas, as the Johnnies move on to the Sweet 16. So those are your March categories, your MVP, your Mr. March, and the game of the weekend thus far, game of the tournament thus far. Guys, it was an awesome weekend. We cannot appreciate y'all enough for tuning in, following along on the Hammy Show on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitter. We had so much coverage coming from Greenville, South Carolina, and from the games across the country. But it is all thanks to you. You guys are liking it up. You guys keep watching it, and I cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank Hugh Subaru enough. We, of course, hit the road powered by Hugh Subaru. It would not be possible without our friends at Hugh Subaru. They are getting us to and fro these locations across the country to follow college sports, whether it was football during football season or basketball during March. We have been across the country following these college athletics, and it's all thanks to Hugh Subaru. Hugh Subaru, my friends, is the best car dealership in the entire world. I drive a 2019 Subaru Outback, and that Outback has gotten me, like I said, across the country. It's the best car in the world, and it came from that lot right there at Hugh Subaru in Athens, Georgia. If you're in the market for a car, give Hugh Subaru a look, because I'm telling you, there is one car sitting on that lot that has your name written all over it. And then this weekend, we had a lot of tunes we were listening to in the car ride and then on Instagram. Our tunes, they're provided by the Vinyl Frontier. The Vinyl Frontier is the greatest record store in the entire United States of America. I'm telling you, it's all about the experience. Going into the record store there in Carrollton, Georgia, right off of I-20 in the town square of downtown Carrollton, the city of dreams, my friends. Pop in, go listen to some tunes, talk to the guys behind the desk, figure out what's your favorite type of music, your favorite artist, your favorite album. They'll get you hooked up. And then, if you can't make it to Carrollton, Georgia, visit thevinylfrontier.com and you can pick out any record on vinyl in the entire universe. Any record that has ever been printed, made, whatever, they've got it at thevinylfrontier.com. And finally, my friends, this is the Hammy Show. We are presented by First American Bank and Trust. We've got 3 awesome all-time elite sponsors in Hugh Subaru, the Vinyl Frontier, and First American Bank and Trust. All lead their categories, respective categories in the entire world. First American is the greatest bank in the entire world. Every time I go in there, they just have a smile on their face. I can't understand my finances. I don't understand them in the slightest, but they do. And they have helped me out. They've gotten the Hammy Show off the ground, and they, of course, are the presenting sponsor of the Hammy Show. If you need to open a business account, a personal account, checking, savings, whatever, they've got you covered there at First American Bank and Trust. But my friends, this is episode 18 of the Daily Ham. We appreciate you tuning in. We will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Tuesday night. I'm your host, Hammy Culpepper. This is the Hammy Show, the Daily Ham, episode 18. As always, my friends, ham it up.